Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Miriam Korowa. It costs the taxpayer $240,000 a year to keep a young person in jail. A new program says that money would be far better spent on crime prevention rather than punishment. A group of prominent Australians is supporting the initiative, which aims to cut the number of young Aborigines in juvenile detention. Michael Edwards reports.
For many young offenders, juvenile detention is the first stop on a long career behind bars. 15-year-old Trey Stewart has seen it all many times.
If you lock them up, it might just create them to be more violent in a way, I'm guessing, and it make them more angrier when they're released, I guess.
And helping young Aborigines to make the right choice is just what a group of prominent Australians is after. The Justice Reinvestment Campaign wants the New South Wales government to radically alter its approach to juvenile justice.
When you start to analyse the reasons why they're going in, a lot of those reasons can be addressed if we invest in development of those people and create meaningful jobs for them.
On average, it costs $240,000 a year for each juvenile in jail. That works out to more than $650 a day, which will get you a luxury room with harbour views at a 5-star hotel like this here in the centre of Sydney. That money could be diverted to programs designed to keep kids out of trouble, such as redeveloping abandoned housing, more services for substance abuse and mental health, job training and education. Victims groups also advocate prevention over punishment.
International research has proven or shown that every dollar you spend on keeping a kid out of the system, within 4 years you will have saved $14. If that's not an investment in a better society, I don't know what is.
The campaign's seeking a commitment from the state government to set up an advisory committee. The Attorney-General Greg Smith has given his tentative support to the project.
The years between primary school and senior high school can be a difficult time for students facing the onset of adolescence. Years 8 and 9 have traditionally been known as a time when young people can disengage. The Northern Territory has the extra challenges of remoteness, a transient population and a high proportion of Indigenous students for whom English is a second language. 5 years ago, the Territory introduced middle schools in an overhaul of secondary education. It's an approach that's gaining ground around Australia, but there's debate about the success of middle schools in the Territory. Alison Middleton reports.
Today's lesson, we're going to be making red cabbage indicator.
It's a science lesson for these Year 9 students at Darwin Middle School and an experiment in the laboratory.
It's pretty fun, but you have to write down a lot of notes, so it kind of sucks.
Just how stuff reacts, and I like explosions and all that.
While life after school is still a long way off, the students are already making plans for the future.
I want to finish Year 12 and become a diesel mechanic. My uncle does the same thing, and he works out in the mines and gets a lot of money as well.
I'd like to be an engineer. I just like with bridges and buildings and all that stuff.
These students are at the centre of a big experiment in education in the Northern Territory, the middle school system. A series of dedicated campuses for years 7, 8 and 9 designed to smooth the transition from primary years to senior high school.
We have a generation of youth who have gone through this experiment, this failed experiment, we believe, and ultimately they will be the ones who will pay the price.
It's unkind to say it's a failed experiment. I think there are positives in there, and I want to build on those positives.
Middle schools were introduced in the Northern Territory 5 years ago. They were the result of a review of secondary education that found Territory students were lagging behind their interstate counterparts.
Middle schools were set up in the Northern Territory in an attempt to re-engage adolescent kids who seemingly were not achieving literacy and numeracy benchmarks, who were becoming disengaged through those adolescent years.
they're starting to explore their own identity and boundaries. So that's why it's critical for us in the middle years to really have a strong focus on making sure that we're engaging our students.
At Sanderson Middle School, there's a strong emphasis on pastoral care. Students' emotional well-being is as important as academic success.
It's about when the kids are here that they're supported, that they're nurtured and that they're meeting the educational outcomes that are required of them.
I want to make sure I do all my work so I can go on trips with the boys.
Here at Sanderson, sport keeps students engaged and builds their confidence. A condition of taking part in the Clontarf Football Academy is doing well in the classroom.
Be nice to the teachers and students, like classmates. Make sure you get all your work finished, homework finished, and just do everything in class.
Rubies on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Rubies! A separate girls' academy also keeps students motivated.
It's actually helped me and bring me into school more because of the fun activities and how it's lifted me up, helped me with my homework and after school and stuff.
The academy is really good. It really helps me with a lot of stuff. It's made a really big difference in my life. I want to come to school instead of just staying home and stuff.
In places like America, there's now some longitudinal research studies that demonstrate that where you actually put in place all of those middle schooling practices and compare it with other schools that just have the structures, that there are massive differences in the outcomes for young people.
Education experts think middle schools are Australia's future. They say a study in Queensland has shown middle schooling is improving students' education.
In those classrooms which had middle schooling practices in place, the actual teaching that was taking place was more challenging, more engaging, more connected to the young learners and provided opportunities for them to extend themselves.
But the Education Union argues the new approach in the Territory is failing. While it supports the idea of middle schools, it says too much money was spent on infrastructure and not enough on teacher training.
There certainly has not been any improvement that we can see in literacy and numeracy benchmarks. There doesn't seem to be any change occurring in some of these middle schools in relation to how these kids are taught, the pedagogy or the curriculum delivery.
If that's their view, then that needs to be taken very seriously, because one of the aims of the middle school 7 to 9 was to make sure that the students had a sufficient and appropriate level of literacy and numeracy to take them on to Year 10.
Around Australia, students from Year 3 on are tested annually in reading, writing and numeracy. The Territory Government argues these NAPLAN tests show middle schools are working.
There are positives in the NAPLAN results. If you're looking at the cohorts that have been successively tested from Year 7 to Year 9, they're demonstrating amongst the highest level of improvement of anywhere else in Australia.
The government says the main indication of success is the number of students finishing Year 12.
In the last year, I think we've had record numbers of people getting their Northern Territory Certificate of Education and Training, and certainly increases in the number of kids who are going through their schooling and completing Year 12. So overall, it was about 20% increase, and certainly amongst Indigenous students, a 45% increase.
The government says the middle school system will be reviewed next year. The Education Union says it's not too late to fix the problems it sees in the sector.
Clearly it comes down to budgetary issues, how much money the government and the department is prepared to spend, and have they a real commitment to improving adolescent outcomes. If they have that, then certainly it's not too late to improve and show that these schools can be great successes.
For these middle school students, finishing Year 12 is the next goal. The Northern Territory Government hopes that will be the aspiration of an increasing number of their peers.
I'm applying for boarding school this year to go down to Adelaide, and I really hope I get accepted, stuff to really help my future.
Yeah, I'm kind of hoping to finish school and become a professional football player and play for the Geelong Cats. My plans are for the future to finish grade 12 and then finish uni and then join the army. It's getting heaps of money and making my family proud.
The Northern Territory Government has accused the Jawoyn Association of playing politics with the Barunga Festival. The event south of Katherine is the Territory's longest-running Aboriginal arts, sports and cultural festival. But the Jawoyn Association says this year's festival is in doubt.
Over the years, there's been less funding towards the Barunga Festival and festival elsewhere. So we come up with a decision to say this year we probably should cancel it.
The Territory Government says it will ensure the festival survives.
Look, I say to Jawoyn, please don't play politics with a fantastic festival. Our government has already indicated we're more than happy in terms of supporting funding for the Barunga Festival. It's a fantastic festival.
The NT Treasurer says people who've organised the event in the past are prepared to step in and run it again this year. Well, let's go from the traditional to the cutting edge, and Aboriginal artists from the Northern Territory are exploring a new way to get their artwork seen through high-end fashion, and they're hoping it'll also be a nice income earner. Adrian Rochella went to check it out.
It's a cross-cultural collection that designer Roopa Pemmaraju is hoping will connect with international markets. The Indian designer moved to Australia 6 years ago. In the past, she worked with Indian artists who designed her handmade fabrics. Now she's teamed up with Aboriginal artists, but convincing them to get involved wasn't easy.
When I just go and approach them like, look, I want you to do a catwalk show with your artwork, and so they were like, oh, maybe we'll think about it, we'll come back.
Roopa Pemmaraju says she eventually earned the trust of 15 artists from Yuendamu, northwest of Alice Springs. She says the notion that people could admire the artwork by wearing the artwork was an attractive idea.
And this creative endeavour also has a very important economic spin-off for the Indigenous artists, who will earn royalties from every garment sold.
Licensing deals can be the difference between an art centre being a viable proposition, especially at a time when government funding is being cut left, right and centre. So these art centres have to stand on their own feet, and the more income streams they can develop, the better.
So, it's amazing to give back to the artisans, and that's what I've been always doing for years now.
The Yuendamu artists have licensed their fabric designs for the next 5 years, a potentially lucrative deal if the market likes what it sees.
And that's all for this edition of the program. Don't forget you can get all the Indigenous news in one place at abc.net.au/Indigenous. And I'll see you again for Weekend Breakfast on Saturday morning.